Welcome to the State of Mind Virtual Speaker Series. This series has been developed to provide education and support to youth, caregivers, and educators during this challenging time. This series is a collaboration between two local nonprofits, 1 in 5 and MindPeace, and various community mental health partners. We're glad you're here to educate yourself and to learn how to keep your brain in a healthy state of mind.
I want to welcome Machen Champion and Sharon Wise from Catalyst Counseling, and they are going to be talking to us about educator self-care today.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. I know we're virtually all together. We're going to pretend like you're here with us in a small group, even though we're not. Just us, yes. So before we get started, just to introduce ourselves a bit. I am Machen Champion. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor supervisor and a registered play therapist. We work for Catalyst Counseling, which is a private practice that focuses primarily on school-based counseling. We also have some outpatient offices, but Sharon and I are both really passionate about school-based counseling. I worked as a school-based counselor the last few years and just moved to our outpatient office. But before I was a counselor, I was a teacher. I taught first grade, so I'm going to say kiddos a lot because I'm used to working with little kids. I still do now. And so that's why I'm so excited to be able to speak on this topic. And I'll let Sharon here in a moment introduce herself too. But I just love taking care of educators as much as I do children and the kiddos that they serve. So I'm just grateful to be here tonight.
And I'm Sharon Wise, and I'm a licensed independent social worker supervisor. I'm a school-based mental health therapist at Catalyst and also the coordinator of the Teacher Support and Wellness Program at Catalyst, which we have just developed within the last year or so. So I just want to share a little bit about what kind of brought me here and my passion about teacher support. I have a close circle of friends with a lot of teachers, and being on the front lines in the school building, you kind of get to see firsthand the stressors that teachers are under. And I just felt like we're bringing therapists into buildings for students, and I got to question what are we doing for our teachers? So that kind of set me a bit on a journey to see if that was a system that we could improve. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about the Onward program, but in my research and investigating, I was turned on to the Onward. This is a book and workbook combo, and I use it a lot for some groups that I do, but we will get to that. But it's an awesome program. I'm using it in a couple of districts, a couple of buildings, and even on an individual level, so it's super versatile. So thank you for having us, and I'm super passionate and excited and happy to be here.
Yeah. So before we get started, well, first off, I love Brene Brown. I wish her wisdom could be downloaded into my brain. So I love this quote in particular from her, and so I like to read this before we talk about self-care and all of this stuff and just a lot of just topics in general. But she says vulnerability is about showing up and being seen. It's tough to do that when we're terrified about what people might see or think. And so as we get to talk and hopefully get to interact with you guys a bit tonight, I just encourage you to come from a place of vulnerability and curiosity, that talking about self-care inherently is vulnerable. It's about the things that you do, taking care of yourself personally. There could be topics and areas about this that don't feel so great, that you might feel icky, or I don't know, lots of feelings of shame come up sometimes when we talk about self-care practices. And so my hope tonight is, first off, that we can be vulnerable with you, and we want to acknowledge that, and that we can just be curious about our experiences tonight, and whatever comes up as we talk, and whatever comes up for you as you're listening, that you can be gentle with yourselves and gentle with us, because we know a lot of things, and we don't know better than anyone. We just know differently. And so we're here just from that perspective as we jump in tonight.
Yeah. So I do want to start out by acknowledging that self-care in these particular times that we're in probably feels overwhelming. It probably is the last thing that you're thinking about doing yourself. You're a teacher, you got into teaching because it's a caring profession, you want to influence children, and there's a lot of emotional ties and work that go into teaching. So especially now with this pandemic that we're in, we get ever-changing news and policies and strategies, and this is how we're going to teach, and this is what our classrooms are going to look like. So for the two of us, I think to sit here and talk about self-care tonight probably feels like the last thing that was on your mind. So I'm really grateful that you guys are here. And as Machen said, just come with an open mind. We're not trying to say this is how you should be doing or what you should be doing, but just, I think, being curious about the topic and how maybe you relate to that topic of self-care. And we want to hear a little bit later from y'all about what your practices are.
Yeah, we're
So,
gonna get curious. Because
yes.
I'm gonna say that word a lot. I said it.
But that's true.
It's true because
It is
it's a stance of just wondering and holding these ideas and thoughts without judgment on ourselves or judgment on other people. So,
Yeah.
so I love. Thanks,
we
Renee.
don't want to change anything you're doing, or if you like what you're doing and you're taking good care of yourself, we don't want to change that. But just some additional ideas and support.
Things to get you started. Yep. So I want to take a second to acknowledge how hard life is right now. Just like Sharon said, most of you, and maybe I'm going to go out there on a limb and say none of you imagined that teaching would be partly virtual or all virtual and that you wouldn't have a classroom to go into. I know when I was teaching, that was something I never prepared myself for, didn't have a class about. And so teaching right now is challenging. And life in general has been stressful because of the pandemic. Many of you are trying to find childcare and work from home and not save your relationships with your kids or your partners or your friends, and having to wear masks all the time. And there's so many things that are happening right now. And so life is hard. And I think it's really important that we take time to acknowledge that. That we're just trying to stay afloat sometimes. We're navigating, I kind of hate the phrase, but it's also really true, navigating the new normal. I hate it because I don't want it to be the new normal, but it kind of is. And so part of all of this is just acknowledging that life is tough right now. And it's hard.
Balance, finding balance is harder than ever. So
with that, I'm going to give you a little bit of brain science. I am a brain nerd, so I have to rein myself in a bit because I could talk about neuroscience and the body and brains all day long. That's not why we're here, although it could be. Don't tempt me. So again, I want to normalize why we feel so tired. And I'm going to get comfy. Y'all, I'm very transparent. I'm taking my shoes off just because I feel better with my shoes off. So not that you can see them, but I encourage you all to get comfy wherever you are. So right now, we feel so tired, and we're gonna look internally into our nervous system, right? So all around us, there are threats that are happening, whether they're perceived that we're thinking of them as a threat, or there's actually like real life dangers, right? COVID's a real life danger. And so outside of COVID and everything else, this is just like a biological normal for anyone, is that when we perceive a threat, it activates our nervous system. And many of you might be familiar with this as you learn about trauma and trauma-informed care. And so if this is familiar, cool. I'm going to ask you to apply it to just life in general and outside of just trauma. And so when we perceive a challenge, our nervous system is going to do one of two things. It's either going to rev up and mobilize that energy in a response of, I can do something about it, or it's going to shut down. And it feels like I can't, and collapse like this when I talk about it, because we're just giving up. And so when COVID hit in March or so, we all kind of mobilized. We had to get ready to go. I remember that first weekend, at least at Catalyst, we were like, got to do this, reading this, doing this. How are we going to get our kids taken care of? What telehealth part? Like we were going. And then the challenges kept coming. And there's been no time to rest because we've had so many things happen outside of the pandemic. You all had to prepare for virtual learning. We've had just culturally a lot of things are going on, and safety-wise, the list goes on. And so our nervous systems had not had time to rest. I give you the analogy, it's or metaphor. Sorry, English teachers, I can never remember the difference between a metaphor and analogy. But the analogy of like running a marathon, except we don't have an end in sight. We don't get to know when we've reached all our miles, and there's surprises along the way. Like you're running on your path and you're like, that's a nice tree. And then it's like, bam, something falls out of the tree. And so you're already moving, and now there's something else. And so for many of us, we are beginning to feel this collapse. We're crashing. Our nervous systems haven't had a downtime. And so we're beginning to disconnect. We feel numb, floaty, checked out. And I want to normalize this for all of you if this is what you're experiencing. If you're still feeling a lot of that mobilizing energy, that's normal too. But particularly with this tired, kind of numbed out feeling, it's really normal that you might notice a change in behaviors, that you might lapse into previous self-soothing techniques or behaviors, I'll say it that way, that you maybe thought you got rid of. Maybe you're self-soothing with food.
Mm-hmm.
When we're really tired, we're extra susceptible to sugar and junk food because our body is doing a normal thing, which is trying to make us feel better, and it's grabbing for whatever we can. So maybe it's like that sleeve of cookies that normally you would eat 1 or 2. You'd only eat 1 or 2 and you eat 5.
Mm-hmm.
I want to normalize that for all of you because your body is trying to tell you something. And we are going to encourage you and get curious tonight about different ways that you can respond to what your body needs to take care of itself in a way that's going to be more healthy and more fulfilling and energizing for you, rather than start that cycle of, oh man, I felt better when I ate those 5 cookies, but now I feel gross because I didn't work out, and then I did this, and then I did this. Well, right? So that's what I want to offer that to you, is that it's okay if you're noticing these things in yourself right now. We are all collectively feeling it too. My click. There we go.
So check-in is our next slide, and I feel like to be on the journey of self-care, that self-awareness has to go along with that. It's kind of the first step of self-care. We have to be aware that, oh yes, I am struggling, or I am tense, or I am stressed, or my muscles are tight. And again, in that caretaking profession, we are not instinctively our first priority. It's everyone else around us. Are you doing okay? How are you doing? How is this kid doing? I'm thinking about this child. So we often, be it because of our profession or the way that we're wired, just don't put ourselves first, second, or maybe even third. So taking a moment, and I do feel like self-awareness is maybe a practice of its own, or maybe a skill of its own that I don't know that we're all genetically wired with. So it is something that, okay, I'm going to make an effort today. In my school day, I'm going to find a quiet place. I'm going to do a couple of minutes of just turning my attention inward. You know, how am I feeling? Are my shoulders tight? Is my breathing shallow? Or am I having a high amount of anxiety? And then maybe also take a look at, how am I responding to the stress? What are my emotions like? Am I irritable? Am I inward and shutting down, that fight or flight, right? I mean, in times of stress, we can stand up and we can fight it, or we can flight it. And I think just knowing that about yourself, and what's my day been like? What's my week been like? Even as a practice on a drive home from work, my kids know not to call me unless the house is on fire, and that's my time to kind of decompress and, you know, kind of reflect on, how was my day? Where are my emotions heading into phase 2 of my day, and as being a parent. So just taking that moment at some point during the day or the week to feel the feelings and acknowledge them, and give yourself permission to have them, because I think we all are.
Yep. And just checking in, like Sharon said, and along with that is just doing it with curiosity and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Noticing your tendencies, noticing what you go for. I know for me, and I'm the only one here, so I'm self-disclosing. Sorry, y'all get to know about me a little bit. I tend to amp up. So when I am really anxious, I'm going to try to control things. I think my coworkers, I know my poor husband knows that too, that I'm cleaning, I'm doing this, I'm much more anxious. I'm just wired. That's how I do. I'm going to respond that way. And for me, it's just being able to recognize, whoa, hey, something's going on. The whole house is sparkling on a Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. Why is that happening? And just saying, okay, whoa, and checking in. So right now, we're going to shoot a little poll at you, and just to check in if you feel comfortable with it, because I believe this is anonymous, so you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but your name won't show up. Take a moment and rate your current stress level on a scale of 1 to 5. this could be about this could just be in general. I'm going to say in general. 1 would be no to low stress, 5 being you are overwhelmed, you are either in that state of hyperarousal or you're ready to just collapse and give up.
All right, yeah, we want to see.
You want to just give you a minute to answer. You can take a deep breath while you're waiting and thinking.
You don't have to tell us what they said.
But yeah, it says it. It's right there. It's kind of nice. So it looks like you guys that felt comfortable answering it, 4 or 5. It's pretty high.
It is high.
It's high. It's a lot of stress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are not alone in that.
I could say I'm at a 4 or 5.
4 or 5?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just being, this is new, right?
This is new.
New
Yeah.
skill, new experience. Yeah.
And I think too, just along with this, you might feel really competent when you wake up in the morning and then you get to work and you might notice that, holy cow, I'm freaking out. Also just want to normalize that with you because the roller coaster of emotions is nothing new for pandemic. Well, just in general, but especially in pandemic time, that sometimes it's literally how am I in this moment?
Like you think you've got your day covered and
Yeah.
then an email comes in and it's like, no, we are going to wear masks all day, every day. And there is not going to
And
be
you can't have fabric and you can't.
right? Yeah. I mean,
So it could be
ever changing.
at this moment, but we know it's high. We know it's high.
So we have a couple people online that we have a 3 and a 3.5 online too.
Okay.
Okay.
So higher end of this, all of us are mostly somewhere medium to overwhelmed. Absolutely. Thank you, Nancy.
So notice, why are we asking you to notice? Why are we asking you all to be self-aware? And I love Machen and I planned this separately, but we both used the reference of a marathon because I said self-care is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So that's why I think we're asking you and challenging you to do these things, just in particular with self-awareness. Because I would say as much as we would like to think, we are maybe nearing the end or well into this journey of uncertainty. I feel like we're probably very much in the middle. So by being curious and by noticing your stress levels and maybe even implementing just a small practice of self-care, you're kind of replenishing those reserves for the marathon. So do this again, like we referenced earlier, do this throughout the day, even if it's just for a minute. There isn't a particular time that it has to be. It doesn't have to look a certain way. The way I do it may be different from the way Machen does it, but just that turning your attention inward, kind of just gauging where you're at, and to test this, if you can, recall a time where maybe your stress level was at that 5+. You were off the charts. New news came in about, a policy or procedure or what your school day would look like. And it's like, oh my gosh, seriously. So in that moment of recalling, think about, how am I? Did my breathing change? Did my heart rate change just by thinking of that experience? And my muscles.
I'm doing it right now.
Right?
I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna throw up.
Right.
Just remembering it.
Yeah. Recalling it can really bring back some of that. So you can see how powerful that practice is of just kind of recalling that event and what that does to your physical.
Your whole body starts to respond, right?
Yeah.
And so if that's happening, you remember it and you're aware of it, then think about in those moments when you're experiencing, you're able to check in throughout your day and just notice and acknowledge. It's going to be really powerful. And it's a simple tool of just giving yourself a moment. Like Sharon said, I don't know, sometimes you get maybe 30 seconds in the bathroom by yourself. You can do it, a check-in. You're washing your hands. You can do it then. It doesn't have to be, like Sharon said, it doesn't have to look a certain way. Because when we talk about this too, and it's really taking a moment to be in your body, that your body has a lot of wisdom and it's going to tell you what's going on before you might even cognitively be aware of it. So like Sharon says, if you're recalling those moments, you're going to start breathing faster. You're going to tense. I know for me, I felt like I'm going to throw up. My hands are really, well, they're still already really sweaty, but they were even thinking about trying to recall in this moment, that it's really important to pay attention to your body because your body has wisdom. And so that kind of leads us to this next point, which is breathing. So you know, you can pause and check in with yourself. Just notice without judgment what you're feeling. And then you're going to use your breath. This is so simple. And you're probably like, oh my gosh, we talk about breath all the time. Well, I'm talking to you about it again because it is really important. And it really, really means so much because it's free. You don't need anything else to do it.
You can take it anywhere.
You can take it anywhere, except I know masks maybe make it a challenge. I say this now and I realize that maybe it's just like holding it out a bit so you can get a deep breath. But your breath is really, really powerful. And it's going to begin to regulate your nervous systems in those moments where you're really dysregulated. So to begin to do this, if you've checked in and you notice you're like, oh, my heart's beating fast, something's up. So you want to begin to elongate your exhale because that's what's going to start calming your nervous system. So if you need to, it kind of looks like this. You count 2 breaths in and 4 counts out. Do that again. Right. And eventually what's going to start to happen is your breath is going to even out. Your inhales are going to start to get longer and your exhales are going to be about the same count if you want to count. So eventually we're going to think about that 4x4 breathing, 4 in and 4 out. And this website, I put this on here for you. If you're somebody like me that likes a visual, this again is a great one to use in your class because it's free. You can pull it up. So I'm going to click on it and I'll bring us to this second web page. You can see it. It's literally just a little breathing dot that guides you in and out. So for you during the day, let's say you're transitioning back after an activity, or well, if you're not leaving your classrooms, maybe you just need to transition to an activity that has a lot of energy and you need to get the kids in your class and yourself settled. I just like to watch this. And I try to match up.
And great for kids.
And it's great for kids too. And chances are, if you're feeling dysregulated, at least one kid in your classroom is feeling the same way. So this is a great tool just for everybody to take a minute or two and just breathe. Because there's all sorts of cool things in your brain and your physiology that happen when you take deep breaths. But it's going to calm you. It's going to feel better. It's going to at least give you a chance to connect back to yourself and say, whoa, I am angry at this moment. And it gives you that pause you need.
And how great to be able to model this for kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. The kids in my office, they love it. I just feel so calm. Yeah, I love it.
I would leave this up, but I need my PowerPoint. So this is the website though, if you want to check it out, calm.com/breathe. So you've paused, you've checked in with yourself, you've got some breathing, and Sharon kind of said this before, and we're going to say it again. The next part of self-care is giving yourself permission to feel. We, I think, live in a culture where it's cool to work through the weekend and we got to keep going. And there's like, it's almost a culture of disconnect that we tune out. We don't give ourselves time. I know it's not something that we're always taught, is that our feelings are okay and they're not right or wrong. They're just temporary. And we can honor those feelings, whatever they are, and acknowledge them because there's something, again, cool brain thing. Some soothing fibers in your brain is that when you can feel your feelings and name it, it literally starts to calm yourself down. That feeling isn't going to go away if we ignore them. It's going to come back. And so when we can take a moment, breathe, and just say, wow, I am really tense right now. And give yourself time to acknowledge whatever it is that you're feeling. A lot of us, it's a whirlwind. It's like a roller coaster of feelings that we're feeling. So you can just have permission and give yourself time to honor the fear, the grief, the anger, the stress, whatever it is. There's a lot of grief in this time, a lot of losses. Not maybe some people, it could be people losses, but it's a loss of freedom, a loss of lots of things,
plans,
weddings, trips, and your classroom structure, and lots of things. So all sorts of things. And so it's okay to feel what you feel. It is. And so give yourself permission to do that, even if it's uncomfortable. Because again, when you ignore things, they're not going to go away. It's going to continue to dysregulate you. So when you can name it and move towards those uncomfortable feelings, because again, a lot of us don't like these uncomfortable, I'm going to not say bad, because there's no feelings that are bad, but whatever these feelings are that are uncomfortable for you, when we expand our tolerance for them, it's just going to get easier to move through them. And they're going to keep coming up because like Sharon said, we're not really at the end of things right now, unfortunately. So next step, we're going to name it. we're just going to name it. Dr. Dan Siegel, if you're familiar with him, he calls it name it to tame it. And so I teach this to the parents that I work with, but we got to do it ourselves as adults because we have feelings. We're not perfect human beings that are calm all the time. And if you are one of those people, call me because I want to know your secrets, because even as trained therapists, we lose our cool sometimes.
And as a parent and as a teacher, my kids are like, oh, I have to tell you how I feel again. Yes, you do.
Yep.
Yeah, to model that for your students, or if you're a parent, I am feeling, or this is kind of where I'm at. Chances are, if you're feeling it, you said earlier, someone in your circle, whether it be your students or your children or whoever, nieces, nephews, someone else is feeling that too. So it really does model for that younger generation that it's okay. Like, this is my feeling, I'm owning it, and tell me yours.
Yep. So I'm going to encourage you. You're going to pause, breathe, and if you can, find a moment away from other people so you can sort out what you're feeling from what they're feeling. And then I'm going to challenge you a little bit to name it out loud, which I know sounds goofy, but it's pretty powerful when you can do it. So just give yourself permission. You can say, this sucks. I'm angry right now. Whatever it is, say it out loud in the mirror, phone a friend, pick up your teacher buddy and say like, oh my gosh, I'm having a hard day and I just need to tell somebody. Or if you don't like to name it out loud, write it out. Literally get it out of you in some way that feels appropriate. Because that's going to be really powerful. Because again, it's not going to go away if we ignore it, whatever that feeling is. It's going to just continue to dysregulate you at one point or another. So when you can name it and get it out there, there's a big relief in that. So we're not going to do this together. I want to watch our time to get through some of our other tidbits we want to share with you. But I'm going to encourage you to do this. This is a way to kind of integrate the couple just things that Sharon and I went over. And we have this link at the end, so we can kind of show it to you. But there's a great resource through the Onward program, which is, specifically for teachers, that there's a guided body scan. So this is something that you can do just by, there's tons of good ones on YouTube. If you'd like to have a guided one, if you have the Calm app, I think Matthew McConaughey reads you a bedtime story or something. I don't know. Maybe it's not my jam. I don't know. It's something to guide you through this. But a body scan is a really quick way that you can check in with yourself and, like we said, practice these skills. And it's super relaxing. So you can do this kind of quickly. I love to do these at bedtime because I'm a person that ruminates a lot at bedtime. And so body scans really get you into the moment and out of your head.
Don't you think caretakers do ruminate at that time?
I
Because you're
think
not
so.
only worried about what I have to do tomorrow, but it was like, how are they going to be tomorrow? And how is that person going to be?
What lesson plan do I have to do? And who's going to show up? And am I going to be safe? Yes. And we ruminate. And so that takes us out of the present moment. And so when we can, I'm going to say the mindfulness word, when we can be mindful of our present situation, it separates us from those anxious thoughts, from the big feelings that we want to feel them. Although sometimes it's not helpful to be stuck in them, especially when you want to go to sleep, because sleep is a big part of self-care. So just really what this is, it's getting comfortable wherever you are. You can be seated, you can be standing, you can be in bed, wherever. And you're going to start either from your head to your toes or your toes to your head. And you're going to really just focus on the sensations of your body. So like for me, I could start with my feet. And I'm thinking, moving my conscious down to my toes, thinking about what my toes are feeling. I'll move my way up to my knees. I might notice for me right now, my stomach is kind of rumbling a bit because I'm hungry and nervous. I come up to notice my breathing, my hands, which are still sweaty, but it's cool, it's feeling better. My head, my face, right? And just check in and just notice, again, without judgment, what's happening in your body. And you can do this really slowly. That's why these guided ones, if you've never tried this before, are really helpful, because they always talk like this. And then they relax you. And then all of a sudden you're asleep, and it's wonderful. But this is a great way, and something, again, you can do for free to check in with yourself and get curious about how you're feeling.
So back to self-care. And I feel, Machen and I have talked about this in planning this, that self-care is kind of a buzzword right now, right? What can you do to take care of yourself? What does your self-care look like? I think the media portrays self-care a lot as looking a certain way. Let's go have a glass of wine or take a bubble bath or get a manicure.
You have to go on a 3-day spa weekend.
Yes. And you have to do all the things in one day.
That's a lot of shoulds.
And the most significant thing that I would like you guys to remember in this is that self-care, again, it's long term. So we don't want to burn ourselves out by starting 27 things at once. Make it simple, a small step, a simple change to your lifestyle. It doesn't have to be a day of manicure, pedicure, shopping, and then run 3 miles. Self-care should leave you feeling energized and rejuvenated when you're done. And that is so significant, I think. Energized and rejuvenated. Something that depletes you. Personally for me, running a 5K would not make me feel energized. So I'm going to just say that's not self-care for me. But you have, you walk away feeling better, more energized, more focused. It could be a bottle of water. It could be a handful of almonds. It could be, just reading a chapter of a book before you go to bed, taking a walk with a friend if you're not a runner. So simple. And we're going to talk more about domains of self-care that don't have to do with manicures and bubble baths, which I think is really cool.
But if those are your things, those aren't bad things to do. But I think, it's what
I love those.
You love those. See, and you guys see, small, simple thing. I'm trying not to rip my nails when I'm nervous, so I painted them. And I bought myself like the nail growth stuff. I felt so fancy all week, and it's the littlest thing. And I'm like, my nails are growing, guys. And that was simple. It's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because I can't paint my nails very well. But it's an easy thing, like Sharon says. And it's just about showing up for yourself. So whatever that looks like, that was something I've always struggled with. And I was like, I'm going to do this. And I felt real cool a week.
Did you feel good though after?
I did. I was a little nervous about how I would feel, but now I'm like, all week I'm like, look, my nails are growing. I feel like an adult. So simple things. Anything that feels happy to you.
Yes. Energy. And this is my favorite chat box. Are we going to do this chat box?
I forgot this one. Thank you. Yes.
Right. But I think this one is cool. So where are you coming from with that self-care word? So in the chat, that's not a poll, in the chat, type a word, some words, a sentence. What comes to mind when you hear the word self-care? Just curious. Where everyone's coming from.
If you feel comfortable.
And if
nobody has a response, that's okay too. And just as you're typing and thinking, I want to put this out there. We put this self-care slide in the middle on purpose because the things we just showed you at the beginning are self-care. All those little steps. Ooh, somebody typed in. Thanks, Alexis. Oh, relaxing, feeling good, time to myself. Yeah, absolutely.
Shower.
Spending time doing something you enjoy. Emily! Hi, Emily. I know Emily. We're friends from high school. That's cool. Thanks for watching. Yeah. Nancy, we have anybody chiming in from Facebook?
We have one person that says peace.
Peace, yeah.
When my kids were babies and little toddlers, just to have room and time in the bathroom to shower and not have to worry. I mean, that was it. I'm like, just give me a scalding hot. Oh, it was like the best part of my day.
Yeah.
It's just so simple.
It's simple.
Like a basic need, but for me, it was self-care.
Sometimes we have another recharging.
Recharging. Ooh, okay.
Oh, it was awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
So funny how things look on your face.
Thanks, you guys.
Okay, so we have mentioned Onward. At the end, we have a resource page, and there's going to be a link to, because Onward is a whole thing. It's a whole program. Awesome. It's coaching. It's professional development. It's a lot. So we're going to put that at the end. But this is just one small thing that you will see on their website. And in my study of self-care and resiliency, I see those two as a partnership. I don't think you can talk about one without the other. And what is, I mean, in its simplest form, what is resiliency? It's the way we respond and recover from stressful situations. How will you come out of COVID 2020? How will you come out of quarantine? And I think you can all probably look back and find times in your life where you had to have resiliency, whether you knew it in the moment or not. You were being resilient, and so what self-care, which is those little acts, can do is kind of refuel your tank, your resiliency tank. Okay, I do have enough energy now to get up and do this again tomorrow or the next day. So it's important, I think, to think of those two kind of hand in hand. So this graphic is cool. And if we start in that top corner of what you do, so these are all the things that kind of go into making you or helping you to be more resilient. So let's look at each one of those domains for you. The what do you do? Literally, what do you do? What is your job? What is your role? Are you a teacher, mom, aunt, best friend, and wife? What are your habits? What are things that make you literally who you are? So that is our what. Do you practice self-care? I think that would fall into our what. How are you? That is where you want to think about your emotions. What emotions come on the forefront when you're faced with stress? Am I a turn it inward and shut down person? Am I a confident, tackle stress head on person? What is my disposition like when it comes to my how do I tackle stress? Where are you? This one is so significant because I think we can be all over the board. From the where being, I just got out of school and this is my first classroom and I'm so excited because it's a blank canvas and I'm gonna do amazing things as a teacher. Or you're the new mom with the newborn and the toddler and you're not sleeping. Or are you 25, 30 years in and you're getting ready to retire? So I think that is important to look at the context of your life. Where are you in life? And as a result, what are your reserves to your abilities and reserves to be resilient? So the last one is who, literally who. What are our genetics? How are we wired genetically to cope with stress? What was modeled for us growing up, if anything, about how to coping skills? That just wasn't a word that we grew up with. And your personality type. Are you the fighter? Are you the flighter? So those all kind of go into who you are. And all of those together, all of those components together really come into making us our most resilient version of ourselves. So we have to feed all of those. We have to feed them all with love and self-care and
kindness and curiosity,
yes, grace.
Moving away from those shoulds. Man, we could talk about shoulds for a whole other hour. Goodness gracious. I think I like this. I like graphics. I'm a visual thinker, but as this relates to self-care, right? It is our habits. It's all of these things, and just looking at them as a whole, instead of just certain aspects or habits that we have that we might not be proud of, or we're maybe not as healthy as we would like. And so taking a chance to step back and see how these all play together, because it's all going to impact, like Sharon said, your resilience and able to move forward, and what you need to do for yourself as self-care. Because again, what you need is going to look different than your teacher partner or your work partner, whoever, or your at-home partner. Your friends, your kids, whoever else. It's going to look different, and that's okay. We want you to know that we
encourage it to be different.
We want it to be different.
Yeah, you and your spouse probably are not going to do the same self-care activities.
No, absolutely. My husband is a extrovert, and I'm like, I don't have to leave outside ever again. Yes. And that's okay. It makes us a good pair.
Yes.
So with this, again, make it simple. So some examples of simple self-care that a lot of us maybe don't even realize are self-care. Food. This is a big one. I see this all the time with teachers, and you all are very guilty of this, and I say this with love. Eat your lunch. Your blood sugar impacts so much of your physiology and your ability to regulate your classroom and teach and think and make good decisions. So when you have low blood sugar, you're not yourself. So eat. Or if you're a constant grazer like I am, I have I have beef jerky all the time, which is like my weird snack, but I've always got beef jerky because I know I am particularly cranky and prone to headaches. So that's something, easy for you to do as self-care.
And movement. I mean, movement is so, and you have a room full of children. Get them all up. We can all do jumping jacks. We can all do stretches or
breathe, touch your toes and stand up.
Especially now I'm hearing that, the kids are staying in the same spot all day and not switching classes. They're in their seat for most of the day. So let's get them up. Let's get them stretching and moving and, just running in place, jumping jacks. So movement is medicine. Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever that movement looks like to you. It doesn't literally have to be running.
No, walking to the mailbox.
Yeah, just getting up, switching positions, especially in the age of technology when many of you are mostly virtual. Because sitting like this all day, it's going to take a toll on your muscles and stuff. So get moving. And along with that, stillness. Have time for quiet. We are bombarded with images and sounds and talking constantly. So find some time to just be with yourself. Maybe it is the body scans that you start and just check in. Maybe it's taking on your drive home, just sitting in silence for a minute. It was something I never thought I would like. And now I crave silence sometimes. And if it's uncomfortable for you, that's okay too. Just notice that about yourself. Other things, making sure you get outside as much as you can, being out in nature, just appreciating it, walking. If you can take your computer outside or take your phone calls outside, do that too. Self-expression, so making time again for things that you love. Do you love to journal? Do you love to bake? Who are you outside of teaching? I think as a former teacher and just somebody in the caregiving profession, that we define ourselves really greatly by our jobs.
Absolutely.
And I love my job. I do. I love to read brain books for fun. That is my self-care for me, is learning. However, not all of us, who are you outside of teaching? What else do you like to do?
I had that experience when I stayed home with my babies. I was like, I didn't have an identity. And that was like, oh, wow, hold on. I need to figure out who I am outside of being therapist. So, but guess what you have to do to figure that out? Is slow down.
Slow down and get curious. There's that word again. Yeah. But again, small, simple steps. Painting your nails. Give another example. I was a horrible water drinker till I got Bubba. So I know I named it so I didn't lose it, because I constantly lose water bottles or cups. So I went to Walmart and I bought Bubba, and he has a handle, and I put stickers on him, and he comes with me everywhere. And then I noticed I still wasn't drinking, so you can see my straw. I will drink most beverages with a straw. I will drink my hot coffee with a straw, which I recognize is not everyone's favorite, but I drink more water than I didn't. And it was super simple, and Bubba comes everywhere. It's $10.
Water is literally, it's free. It's anywhere. It's literally everywhere.
But it's a small step.
It is just simple.
So imagining self-care like this, because it could be overwhelming. You're like, okay, I know I need to make changes, but where do I start? Right? You have that little wheel that Sharon showed you that's wonderful as a way to get curious about your experience. But this one's a little bit more specific. I'm giving you some ideas of if you like some structure. So these are just 8 domains of wellness. And we're going to run through these kind of quickly, because we'll give you a little activity that you can do on your own with this. As kind of a self-assessment. So physical, obviously that's taking care of your body, movement, sleep, lists on there, eating healthy foods, giving sure, or if you really like to exercise, make sure that you take time to rest. Emotional, that's that stress management piece. Healthy boundaries, that's a big one. We can talk about boundaries all day too. Compassion, kindness, and especially turning those things inward, and examining your self-talk and how you talk to yourself as part of that. Social, these are, again, there could be boundaries that come with that. Are you connected? Do you have a support system? Are you asking for help when you need it?
And how hard was it to be social when we were on a lockdown?
Yeah.
I mean, that was significant. I live and breathe people. So we just started doing virtual. We could live right down the street and we just do like virtual so I could see people.
And please
It's
talk
just
to
hard.
somebody. Yeah.
It's hard times to kind of pull some of these off. So.
Spiritual, I always want to put this in out there that doesn't have to be religion unless that is something that's personal and meaningful for you. But you could think of spiritual as just your beliefs, how do you make meaning, things like that. Personal, obviously this is hobbies. This is that self-expression piece, your identity. Who are you outside of your job? Space, this is your environment. That could be, is your classroom, as much as COVID compliant, a place that you want to be? Is your home somewhere that you like being? Or this could be just taking care of the earth as well. Do you like to recycle and do those kind of practices? Financial, that one's pretty self-explanatory, but that could be maybe you need to open a different checking account or start a budget or whatever.
But we talked about the other day, just balancing your checkbook.
Balancing your checkbook, that's self-care.
Self-care.
You know where things are. Yeah.
It's not very much, not a bubble bath, but it is just important.
That's self-care. Yeah. And then finally work. So time management, leaving work at work, enjoyment of your work as best as you can, and giving yourselves time away from work as well. So to do this, if you like to color, I encourage you to color. I'm a play therapist, so I'm always about coloring, but I recognize not all of you like to color. So give you a way to do this. So if you have a plate or a circle, you divide it into 8. You can label it with each of those domains. And then what I'd like you to do is reflect. How satisfied are you, or how well do you feel like you are filled up in that section? So how satisfied are you on a scale of 1 to 10 with each of these domains? So you can go through and rate them, 1 being, nope, this is terrible. This isn't happening at all. First is a 10, you're knocking it out of the park. This practice is solid. You are happy with this area.
Yeah, that person's really happy with their space, but not their job.
Yeah, works. That person's
works hard right now, and their space is awesome.
Yeah, so you can color it up that way. You can literally write out 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, 2 out of 10. It's just a way to get curious. Again, it's kind of this self-assessment piece. So we've got another poll for you. If you had to think of these 8 domains, and they'll pop up for you if not, and then I'll go back to the picture. Which domain would be the highest? So which one are you most satisfied with or most successful at? And at the same time, which domain is the lowest? What could you increase? Like, what do you want to work on? So go ahead. Oops, Nancy, I think that's there. Nope, that's poll 1. Sorry, you're laughing, you're figuring it out. We're being patient with technology. We can practice that, we're good. We can all do our breathing. Oh, there it is. Gonna do a guided breathing. So which domain would be the highest you're most happy with of these 8? And then again, which are you least happy with? What do you want? What's your area of focus? We'll give it a second. Yeah, let people vote. Oh, this one's just the highest question right now. So which one is the highest for you? Are you most satisfied with? Okay. Do my self-care and drink my water. I don't sound like a raspy old person. Okay, so right now it looks like physical is the highest. You all are most happy with physical. That's pretty cool.
Some runners out there.
Yeah. Exercisers, yeah.
What's that one?
And then social is the highest, social and physical. That's awesome to hear, you guys. That's one we did this at Hamilton City Schools, and I was surprised. A lot of people said social they were happy with, which is good. You guys
especially now.
Especially now, yeah.
I've been isolated and stressed, and it's awesome.
Okay, so can we switch then, Nancy, to the next one and see which is the highest? Yep, with physical and social. And then do we have the question about which one's our area? That's all right, you're working on it. You all listening can think about it. We want to know, oops.
That's we're just going to pretend that that's the lowest.
Okay, we're going to pretend, you guys. Yes, you're using your active listening skills and not your reading skills. Which one would be the lowest? We're going to pretend that says lowest and not highest. I'm grabbing my ears. Which one's the lowest? Ooh, physical and emotional. Yeah, emotional is a tough one. Yeah, emotional is a tough one. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for answering. A little vulnerability there for you all. I appreciate that. So if you don't like to color, don't want to think about it that way. This is, well, I'll let you explain this one.
Yes.
Paper pencil one.
So I use this in the small groups that I do in schools for the Onward program. And it's kind of a pre and post test. What is your level of stress coming into the group cycle? What is your level of stress going out of the group cycle? So there may be this group of you that just really do like the quizzes and grading. I think it's kind of like grading papers. But it's basically going to look at a few different elements. Your satisfaction. Do you love what you do? Are you happy with the state of things are and what you do? Is there any level of burnout? Are there any negative feelings associated with your job, or what is going on currently? And the other thing that might not apply to everybody, but it's significant, is just secondary traumatic stress. And what that looks at is, we as teachers and certainly as counselors, we hear kids' stories every day that aren't pretty. They're awful sometimes. So it is possible in hearing those tough stories, especially as kids are coming back into the building, and what were things like for you those 5 months that we were gone. You may hear some things that aren't what you expect, or upsetting, and it is possible for you to have some secondary trauma response to that. So this is looking at several different avenues of satisfaction. And so again, you can see the questions kind of on the side. At the end on our resource page, we're going to actually put a link there, so if you want to go on and fill that out.
This is free. You can Google it.
It's free. Yeah, we got the link. It goes right to it. But I want to encourage you, if you're looking at the results, to be gentle with yourself, to give yourself some grace, because what you're looking at here is maybe things that aren't working well, things that you're not happy or liking, and that can be hard to do, to be honest and vulnerable in those situations of like, oh, I really could do some work in that, but it's a curiosity. It's knowledge.
Kind of getting a baseline.
Knowledge is power. I always say that. Knowledge is power. If you know, okay, these are the things that aren't working, then I can start to maybe take those baby steps of making a little bit of
making one change.
Just one.
Yep, one at a time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be Sharon, watching our time a little bit.
Okay. Yep, I see it.
Okay, I'm gonna let you talk about this awesome program.
So I'm gonna quickly, which I have referenced, but here's the link to the Onward website. So this is beyond the awesome book, beyond the awesome workbook, there's an amazing website, and probably a really good place to start, just to kind of get a vibe of that program in general. And there's a blog and all just resources at the wazoo of things that for teachers. Let's remember, Alina was a teacher. She turned coach, she turned researcher, public speaker, author. So this is really truly for you all. And it's awesome and amazing. So check it out, packed full of awesome stuff.
I want to brag about, I'm going to interrupt you and brag about this a little bit, and the things that you're doing with it. So Sharon went out to California and got trained and brought it back to us, and started this program, and she's been able to do small groups in different districts that Catalyst is in, that she met before and after school with teachers that wanted to do this. They got the book and they did activities together. They got to process as a small group. We've incorporated this knowledge into PDs for building-wise, different, just building-wide trainings for all our teachers and support, because we at Catalyst love our teachers. So this is honestly, you guys, we have some neat stories, and we can talk about this a while, just as testimonials. If you don't want to do it as a group, this is individually that you can do. I mean, can you hold up that workbook one more time?
Yeah, for you introverts, I literally have shared it with some colleagues, and they have come back. It's
it's giant. It's awesome. These are all activities,
pages,
which could be overwhelming, but she breaks it down in a manageable way.
By month.
I have it. I work through it sometimes on just my own, because they're really great guided activities for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. If you look at it one chapter at a time, it's not so bad. So this will just give you a little intro. And I do want to say on the website, if you're like, oh, I'm not committed to buying the book or the workbook, she does have some activities on there that she pulls directly from the book for free that you can go in and I think kind of get a feel for some of the activities that you might do. And you all can reach out to me. My email is going to be at the end. There's a PDF version. There's all sorts of different ways to access this for fairly inexpensive. We've kind of looked high and low to make it affordable. But this one is the Find Your Why. And I've had some really powerful experiences in doing this with groups of teachers. In short, it is emotionally take yourself back, put yourself back in maybe your first days in your new building, your first days in your new classroom. I referenced it earlier, your new classroom, which is just a blank canvas for whatever you want to do. I mean, how exciting is that? And you're creative and you have new ideas and you're so excited to be there. Write about it. And if you're not a writer, take 3 to 5 minutes just to think about it, to put yourself back there and really tie into those emotions from those early days of teaching. I've had teachers in this group just like they're sitting and they're tearful and it's been amazing. And then we all talk about it. But if there was a way to bottle that, just to bottle that, and I think that's my wish for you or my hope for you, this crazy school year that we're getting ready to go into or have just started, just to find a way to tap in and bottle those early feelings and that early excitement, because it's going to give you a whole lot of energy going into this school year. So
it's really powerful, you guys.
Love it.
If you're watching and you're not a teacher, do
You
this
can,
too.
yeah, we can all
like, yeah, but I remember I did this activity when I started teaching and I got really tearful. I did.
Yeah.
Because it's, I was excited. I didn't know what these kids were going to bring. And we talk about this now because it's a way to shift your perspective. If you're finding yourself not excited to get to your classroom, whatever that might look like, whether it's your computer or your physical space, try to just spend a minute before you walk in and remember why you came. Maybe you got into teaching because you love math. And bless all of you that do. We need more math teachers. Maybe it's because you love kids. You just want to be with them and you find joy being in their presence, even when they're not your favorite people to be around. But capture that. Write it. You can put it on a little note card. If you like to collage, I have my collage. It hangs above my desk with pictures from magazines that we do. So I want to leave you.
So we have one question here. Is there a difference between Onward the book versus Onward the workbook?
Good question. So they are partners. Onward, the book is kind of a summary of her philosophy and stories and her experiences. The workbook literally is a workbook. And I will tell you, I've had a couple of districts use just the workbook. From a financial perspective, they're trying to save money. Everything, you could literally use the workbook as a standalone without the book. It's just the chapter 1 book goes with the activities in chapter 2. But I've had a lot of success in districts and buildings just purchasing that workbook. If you like interactive, if you like to write and journal and actually do instead of just read, the workbook is what you're looking for. If you're just a reader and you're like, I don't really need the activities, same content, just trying to appeal to a wide base of people. Great question.
So we're going to leave you with 2 last little thoughts quick because I want to be mindful of our time because we're grateful that you've given us this hour. I don't know who said this quote, but I really like it a lot. On particularly rough days when I'm sure I can't possibly endure, I like to remind myself that my track record for getting through bad days so far is 100%. That's pretty good. And it is. You all, I'm going to start to cry when I think about how much I love teachers, y'all. I don't know. I do. You all are wonderful, and you have gotten through the end of a school year where you didn't get to say goodbye to your kiddos, and now you're coming back for whatever it looks like, and we applaud you. Know that if nothing else, Sharon and I love all of you, and we're so grateful that you're out there doing what you're doing because you all are capable of doing hard things.
This was the most exciting week of my career in a school this week. These kids coming back, They were so happy and joyful to be back. Even the kids that were like always in the principal's office, they're like, oh, so happy to be here. And oh God, and like teachers we were all just tearing up. It's been like, gosh,
It's
been
emotional.
amazing. I hope you guys are having that same experience, but it's just been
Yep.
awesome.
And so last bit, if you do a lot of these reflections, or maybe you've been feeling like this for a while, I want you all to know it's okay to not be okay. And you don't have to feel that way alone. If you've tried all the things and it still doesn't seem to be working, please, please, please reach out. A couple ways, if you want to talk to a mental health professional, many of your plans have an employee assistant program to get you some free counseling if you want them. Usually 5 to 10 sessions are free. If you're not quite sure about going the insurance route, or you're just not aware how to find a quality provider, Sharon and I and Catalyst just in general, we would be happy to help you find somebody, not necessarily with us. We know we might not be a good fit for you. Maybe somebody's closer. We would love to help you find somebody that is. So you can email Sharon or I. I also want to point you to the 1 in 5 and the Mind Peace websites. They're also really great resources for counseling, for mental health stuff in general. There's a lot of great stuff on both of their websites. But please don't feel like you have to do this alone. We are here for you, and know that it's okay to not be okay.
And if you have any questions about Onward, I know I went through a lot of material in a really quick amount of time. Feel free to email me. I can tell you a little bit more about how we're rolling that out in schools. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you all. I feel so special.
Sharon and Machen, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I think this was great. I think you gave all kinds of great resources to educators and everybody that was listening with us today. This series, the speaker series, is also, we have additional topics that are coming up. If you check out the 1 in 5 and Mind Peace website, you can see additional topics over the next couple of weeks. And I also want to thank the Hamilton County Mental Health and Recovery Board for being a sponsor for this event. Everybody have a great evening, and thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
A special thank you to our State of Mind speakers and to you for joining us. More videos and educational resources can be found at 1 in 5's website. If you feel like you or your child is in need of professional support, therapists are available. Please refer to Mind Peace's school-based or community resource page. For a mental health crisis or emergencies, patients and families are encouraged to contact their current mental health provider first. This allows the mental health provider who knows your child best to provide support and direction. If your child does not have a mental health provider and they are experiencing a non-life-threatening mental health crisis, you are encouraged to contact the Psychiatric Intake Response Center at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. 513-636-4124. Call 911 or go to the emergency department if you are experiencing a medical emergency, a life-threatening mental health crisis, or are directed to go there by a medical provider. This will help limit the spread of COVID-19 in our community and allow our emergency departments to care for patients with the most critical needs first.